Are you in the show?
I was going to point up to that corner there, but it's like in that corner there, the little live. Hello everybody, and welcome to the first Cornerstone Catch Up of 2021. Have you just jigged around the order there, Joe? Did we just swap?
I just went for something different now. I was trying to remove myself, but it.
That was like the evolution of man. That was.
You weren't at the end, were you, Dean? Oh, Joe, come on. I know we said put yourself at the centre a bit more, but come on.
You know what, when you do that, Gab, it's like Chris Kamara on Sky Sports when you do that.
Right, now, I need to share something on my Facebook, something or another, don't I?
Yes.
Yeah, you go share, boom,
yeah,
and you go check us out. We're on telly. That's what you do.
Oh, yeah, there I am. And then I can do something to share that. Share.
There you go.
There you go. Power of technology. Look at that.
What do I do? Just go like watch party and then click start watch party.
I don't do
I'm getting this out of the way, ready for when my adoring fans come on. So, yeah, that's the idea. Well, no, thank you to for joining us on the Cornerstone Catch Up 2021 first edition. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, nice one, Joe. Look at that. He's straight on it. His fingers over the thing, ready just to click it. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It's been an interesting start to the year for most. And I think we sent out a little note to everybody we work with, and we sort of put some stuff out on our social as well, just to say, just an update from us, just to say we're carrying on doing what we're doing, and we just hope everybody's sort of coping okay. And I think lockdown 3 has been, different for a lot of people. People who coped really well in the second one have been sort of knocked back, and people who've been fine throughout are now sort of starting to feel the impact. Even somebody mentioned to me, I think it was Beth mentioned earlier, that even Joe Wicks has had a bit of a moment in terms of lockdown 3 affecting him. And as we all know, he's basically a demigod, Joe Wicks. So, so if it's affecting Joe, then I mean, Joe's sort of second on my list after George in terms of people. I mean, Joe would be good on the Cornerstone Catch Up, wouldn't he?
Joe Wicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
He'd get us too sweaty. We'd have to be.
He would. He'd embarrass us big time.
Yeah,
he would. The thing is, he was going to come on just until Dean dissed him, and he was probably going to. He just sent me a little DM.
Has he?
Yeah, he did. But never mind now; it's too late.
Oh, well.
We're busy.
We don't need his viewers. We'll
get
it's fine. Our own viewers.
Well, to be honest, we've got a yoga expert, Maria. So yeah, we don't need Joe Wicks. We've got our own fitness team. So how are things going for you guys?
Joe?
Me or Joe Wicks?
Let's go Joe Lloyd.
No, all right. The kind of horrible thing is we're kind of used to it, aren't we? I think that's the most kind of depressing thing and the most kind of reassuring thing. We've been through it a couple of times now with having to stay and not being able to go anywhere and do things. So it's kind of just knuckling down as much as possible, really. I'm okay. I'm doing okay. As I said, I've got fitness is obviously quite important for me, doing stuff as well. So I'm doing Red January at the moment, which it means run every day. It's something that mind doing sport in mind, and it's basically just about being active every day throughout the month of January. Obviously, beat the January blues or wherever they say it. I started doing it a couple of years ago, but I take it really literally and go for a run every day. So not just like doing a workout or a walk. So I've kind of made that a rod for my own back, I suppose, because this year I want to go for it a bit more, and I'm just already absolutely knackered from the mileage and the runs that I'm doing. But it's good because at least every day I'm thinking, well, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to still be working. I'm still going to be busy. So yeah, I'm just focusing on that and plowing on through, really.
What about relax every day? Is that a thing?
Oh, you get to do that, don't you? Once Finley's in bed, we get a couple of hours of that, don't we, as well? So yeah, all about that.
Yeah, post Christmas chocolate every day. Because we've all got loads of those. I was saying to Joe the other day, I've got literally a box, and I'm not even joking. It was a box just full of chocolate, and and I don't even eat it. So I've sort of hidden it away from the kids because I'm thinking it's not going to be the best start of the January if they're full of chocolate.
There you go. You know what you're getting for Christmas next year, Joe.
Out of date vegan chocolate bars. You bought it.
I've only ate one so far. I can't manage anymore, and of course now I'm on. Yeah, I think just reiterating, I suppose, what Joe says in terms of lockdown, just trying to zone in on a focus, like having a focus that allows to distract yourself from everything that else is going on. So, and trying to make that a positive one. So I've been doing the same thing in terms of focusing on my fitness and overall health, and what I'm eating and all that sort of stuff. And that's good, because if I'm not working, I'm doing that or spending time with the family. So it's not a bad situation to be in, really. I know it's an awful situation out there, but personally, I think I'm coping better.
Yeah. All good. So we're off and running. 2021. Let's go.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be right to just launch into 2021 without reflecting on our highlight of 2020, which was Project Santa. And, we got some really good engagement in terms of the project. Joe did a fantastic job in terms of, getting the message out there and talking about what we're doing. Obviously, we was working in collaboration with Keystone. We involved the support charity P3 in it in terms of their, sort of early engagement in terms of the residents. We spoke very early to the family, and the city council were involved. We had a councillor come out to the property, Councillor David Welsh, and come and see it and sort of see the project that was working on. It's the first time we've met him, and so that was really good as well to sort of have a chat through the priorities for Coventry and the challenges that are facing Coventry and family housing. So,
what was it, Gav? For those that might not have seen it, what was Project Santa?
Well, if you haven't seen it, just go back through our socials and start having a look through the material, because it is fantastic. And what I was saying to Joe earlier was, like, I watched Love Your Garden, which is like the garden version of DIY SOS, Alan Titchmarsh one. And honestly, it was that good in terms of what we did. So yeah, I would certainly recommend having a look back through the socials. But in summary, we took on a property, bought a property 3rd of December, and on the 23rd of December, we moved in a family. And it wasn't just a case of our normal process in terms of, refurbishing the property and providing it a good standard. It was like magic. It was the full on everything. It was furnished, fully furnished, totally kitted out, totally renovated. Christmas tree, lights, presents under the tree, all the clothes and food, all the cupboards full of food. It was a real magical sort of wow turnaround. And what was particularly interesting about it was the before and afters, because you bought this, didn't you, Dean?
Hey,
you bought this one, didn't you? You selected this one.
I found this one, yeah. So interestingly, for those that are interested in the investment side, we bought this using our pensions. So we'd done a bit of work previously where Gavin and I had taken our previous pensions and combined them into what's called a SAS pension. So a pension that you have a bit more control over. And one of the things you can do with that is use that to invest in real estate. So we took a loan from the SAS, used it to purchase this flat. It's 54,000, I think, if I remember rightly. So second cheapest flat that we bought in the city. But you wouldn't think so. Looking at it, it was well, look at the pictures. You'll see why it was 54,000. It wasn't a beaut. Are you getting the pictures, Joe? It sounds like you're trying to.
So bathroom for me was always.
There you go. Bathroom.
Oh, look at that.
There we go.
Yeah, something to behold, isn't it? So it was a bit. It needed a bit of a clean. Yeah, so we cleaned that toilet and sink so hard it went pink to white, basically. That's a good photo there in terms of that. You got any more, Joe?
Yeah, we got kitchen.
Kitchen was barely much of a kitchen really. So a little bit of a sink there, hardly any sort of running water, no appliances, no electric. So I had a full rewire. Brand new electric heating system installed in there because we're trying to go fully electric now and move away from gas heating, as that's the government's sort of core agenda on the environmental side. But really nice kitchen, quite simple, fully furnished. Got more bedroom. Sorry, mate.
Sorry, yeah, main bedroom. Again, it was obviously just a blank canvas, a bit of a shell, but everywhere you can see like the damp and mold and just the dirt, and obviously the carpets. I mean, I don't even know what decade the carpets are from, but from when it was built, I take it. So Yeah,
must be 60s, 70s, I guess. That's what I mean. It looks very similar to the carpet my grandma used to have, so I'd put it at that level. But the person who obviously lived there previously, big smoker, so the walls were like thick with tar basically, and it was a real nightmare to get that off. So we took that all out, sorted it all out. Have a look at the video. But like Gavin said, we worked closely with Keystone, the charity, P3, other agencies in the city. It was a really nice project. Got it fully furnished, all set up for Christmas with food, presents, Christmas tree decorations, and I don't know if you got a photo of the little boy's bedroom there, Joe. Perhaps.
Yeah. It's a nice little special touch we were able to do. Yeah.
This was really nice, wasn't it? It was really lovely, and it kind of sparked a little mini idea that we've got around kind of maybe a sponsor a bedroom type program. But as we're putting these properties together, typically we wouldn't always go to this level with kind of customizing a bedroom for maybe a specific child's interest or anything like that. But we did that on this occasion, and it was I wasn't there. I don't think you were there either, Gav, but Joe, you would have been there maybe the day before the family moved in. And the feedback we had from the lettings team was that kid was just straight into the toys, throwing them around, being a superhero. So I mean, that's the stuff you want to be doing more of that. So it was really nice to think about how we can maybe do a bit more of that going forward. Actually, lovely project.
Yeah. And I think just to say thank you to everybody who did support us on that, whether it be the sort of direct support from Keystone in terms of what they made happen, but also to all the individuals either that donated to the program and the fundraise that Keystone had put together, or actually those people that donated our furniture items, because we had so many people, and it was sort of overwhelming really in terms of the generosity. I know it's Christmas and I know people like to give, but honestly we had enough food here to feed 100 people, and that's what we're able to do. We're able to distribute some of that food around to some of our other families that were struggling as well. So I think it was a brilliant project, and it's made us think about what we can do next, particularly in terms of a collaboration. And I know Joe's got lots of ideas. But yeah, it was just really fantastic. So I just want to say, big congratulations to the team. And that was the best thing, I think, from mine and yours point of view, Dean.
Yeah.
Aside from just dropping into a couple of the meetings and dropping over to the property and seeing what's going on, it was just done. It took on its own life, and Joe and Beth and everybody involved just done a fantastic job in terms of making it happen.
The bit that doesn't come across is we did 2 other properties that week as well. So there was a property in Stratford that we handed over, and another move on in Coventry as well. So I mean, Project Santa got the focus, but there was 3 properties handed over literally right up to the deadline at Christmas. The one in Stratford's a nice one because it's the first one we've done with St Basil's, or the charity partner that we're working with there. We've set them up with a 2-bedroom flat over in Stratford. They've got 2 young persons living in there now that are obviously not in a homelessness situation, not at risk from that perspective. So that was another nice one to do for Christmas. It's Christmas every day at Cornerstone.
And I mean, obviously the other highlight was my radio interview.
Of course. Favour of Christmas, he was, weren't you?
It was a last minute sort of thought. Is in maybe there'd be some interest, so we put it out and was on BBC Radio Coventry and Warwick. And I mean, it's not awkward because I like to talk about what we do, but it's a bit awkward when you get put as the hero. And Trish, the lady running it, she kept on saying, "Oh, that's fantastic. You're like a hero." And I was like, "Really?"
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
really, I am. I'm not trying to be modest. It's all the team, and I was just saying, I'm just a fortunate spectator in this. So that was really cool. That was cool to do the radio as well. Never done that before, so that was fun. Oh no, I have. Sorry, I've radioed Tamworth. Come on.
The actual kind of event put to one side, maybe what that means for those that are interested is that the family that have moved in there now, they transitioned into that property from one of our temporary accommodation services, and they're now on a 2-year long-term tenancy with their rent fixed at £570 a month. So LHA rent, they don't have to top up, they don't have to find any additional funds, they've got full tenancy security, they get all the support that Oliver and the social lettings team provide for them to make sure that they've got what they need. So that's what we're delivering on that side. And I think we don't want to forget that that's actually what happens after all this. This is a nice little bit to celebrate, but the bit that we like every day and the bit that keeps the team going is we're doing this week in, week out for many families at the minute, and that's Christmas every day.
Yeah, I mean, what are we up to now in terms of those social rent properties?
I think I want to say we're at 28 or 29 on the Coventry side. We've done the first one in Nuneaton, and we've got more to do there. So yeah, I mean, it's 8 a quarter that we work towards, which when you sort of break that down is one a week pretty much. So Maria and the team are out today sourcing more. I know there's more properties going through the purchasing process at the moment, the conveyancing, the finance, the legals. So yeah, it's going to be a massive part of what we do. You and I had a session yesterday looking forward at what this year looks like. We're being ambitious with our properties. If, you know, I mean, I don't want to put a figure out there because you don't want to not hit it, but we want to be pushing close to triple figures this year if we can try and find that number of rooms or properties together that we can provide for people. So that's a real big ask, but we've got to step things up a level every time that we go, and building the team and the ability to be able to do that. So it's putting that healthy level of pressure on us to make sure that we're doing more of the good stuff.
Definitely, and I think the social rent piece is really important. So for those of you that sort of don't understand that framework and that dynamic, and it's quite complex really when you start to get into, people hear about affordable housing or affordable rents and social rents and council housing and all those types of things. In really simple terms, social rent is where the rent level matches the benefits that you would receive. So if you was in receipt of benefit and as part of that benefit you are eligible for housing benefit, you'd receive a certain amount, and a local housing allowance level, so the amount you receive, and social rent means that it's locked in at that level. So you don't like being about topping up, whereas affordable rents can be up to 80% of the market rent. And then obviously you've got market rents in terms of lock-up from a private rented point of view. But this can have a massive impact in terms of affordability. So people can get into some seriously difficult situations, end up losing where they live, end up getting into severe debt, because they're having to top up their rent. And if they can't afford to do that, it's a really difficult situation, because if you're a family and you're faced with the choice of, you know, option 1, don't feed my family, or option 2, don't pay my rent, that's an unbelievably difficult decision to make. And that's where, you know, things like food banks have really grown, because people can't afford to feed themselves and their families.
Joe, you've put a piece, Joe, a bit later around the future of social housing at the moment, and like what's our plan? Why is there such an enormous shortage? Well, that'd be a good bit to actually touch on in a moment. But this is mathematical. This is purely mathematical, and there's 2 bits behind it really that drive why social rents aren't more widely adopted. Profit motive, number 1. Economics of the housing market, number 2. That is it. Houses are too expensive to buy and operate at the social housing rent level, or the margin in there pushes that price up because that's what's required to make it a viable investment for maybe the private sector or a housing association. It's simple maths, and you've got to find a compromise between those to find a long-term perspective where you balance all those interests if you really want to make a proper big dent in what's happening at the moment.
But that's key to the work we do with the local authorities, is really focusing on that social rent level. Because and an interesting stat that I was boring everybody with before Christmas is there was a Homes England report, and what it did is it focused in on between April and the end of September how many social rent properties were completed. So in terms of the terminology they use is additionality. So how many additional social rent properties were provided that sort of weren't being used for social rent before. And in the UK, in England, across England, within that period, there was 619 properties delivered, and the West Midlands there were 68. So between April and September, there were 68 additional social rent properties provided. In that same period, we delivered 24, and so that puts us at 39, an equivalent of 39% of the social rent houses delivered. And you know, where councils, where the likes of George Clark is talking about the need for council housing, and it doesn't have to be provided by the council as long as it's at those social rent levels. It can be social rent housing from housing associations. It can be social rent housing from the private rented sector. That's what we're doing. We are providing housing at that social rent level, and we provide 39%, the equivalent of 39% of the additional social rent houses in the West Midlands. So that's something that we're really proud of, and you know, I want to push that number up. And me and Dean were talking about it earlier in terms of those figures that we're talking about. Is trying to really respond to the need of the charities and the local authorities we work with, but make that core focus in terms of more social housing, and because that's the thing that's going to make the difference.
And here's what's interesting. So the George Clark documentary, look at any of the commentary, read the narrative. The expectation, the public expectation is, well, the local authority should be doing that. Housing associations should be doing that. Charities should be doing that. The landlords we work with, the private landlords, all private landlords, and we're delivering schemes at the local housing allowance rate or below in some cases. And that's the private market that's doing that. That's private landlords that are willing to do that if you can build the service, the support, the infrastructure to allow them to kind of see the value in the process. And that's where we're kind of building that real expertise, that real specialism around understanding that value, extracting that from the model so that there's a kind of a true win-win, if you like, across the situation, which I've got to keep shouting out. We need more properties in Coventry. We need more properties in Nuneaton. We want to buy 3 beds. We're looking to lease 3 beds and then buy them at a later date. So landlords. It's a big thing that we're spending some real effort on at the moment, which is getting that message out a little bit clearer, because we've had some feedback that, understand what we do from a missionary perspective, understand what we do from the tenant's perspective, but how clear are we being to the property market that actually we're a property company, we do well on housing, we want more housing, and we want to talk to people that have housing. So you're going to hear that a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge focus, talking about it tons. And I think it's been interesting actually this week, because we've been talking with Joe, and we've been sharing with Joe the story from the start of Cornerstone. And it's really interesting to see now, like, I suppose the understanding we have of social housing, the focus and the way we've sort of built the service around the need. And that's been an interesting sort of reflection period, particularly at the start of the year. Yes, you're looking forward to the 2021, but to look back, and there's been quite a few, I suppose, stories that we've spoken about. And then when you're sort of following through that timeline, you remember, oh yeah, I remember that. And it's also funny how so much of it blends into one. So you're talking, we started then, or we did that then. It's like, no, that was the year before. So we were reflecting back on a Christmas, a push we had for a property at Christmas, or two years ago now.
Yeah.
And we were doing the same thing. We were moving a family in. It wasn't quite Project Santa, but we were moving a family in on Christmas Eve, and there was a massive push there. And Dean was like, that was last year. And I was like, no, it was the year before. And you sort of lose perspective.
Interesting story. You remember that story though? So it was one property, wasn't it? It was 2 together, but one property in particular was being sold. I'm sure it was the mortgage work. I'm sure it was Nationwide or Halifax, one of those. And we couldn't get the completion done because we couldn't find out basically the what do you call it? Not the retention value. Was it the retention value? But the value of the mortgage needed to be repaid. So the seller just couldn't get the value out because they owned a few properties, so that we could actually line up the completion and pay off their existing mortgage when we bought it. And that must have been second week of December maybe. And this started to come through as, it's going to be a blocker, we're not going to make it. And I remember you going, no, not having that. And I'm sure you found the chief exec of Nationwide on LinkedIn and managed to get it.
Honestly, it was ridiculous. You never think these things are possible, but if you just don't accept no for an answer and go, no, I can do it, and just ridiculous amounts of self-belief and push, and we did. So I got hold of him, and he, of course, pushed it down the line and said, oh, I'll speak to one of my operations managers. And I did, and she was fantastic, and we got it over the line. So, that was cool. I suppose that's one of those little moments that stick in the memory and sort of make you think. There's been a few, haven't there, in terms of the there's the early days with the marigolds and the moving furniture and everything. We've got a few pictures of that.
Beds on heads, everything.
Yeah.
It was whatever it took. Do you remember? It was whatever it took, and we went through a period when we were sort of scaling up, and it was just Gavin and I, and we were doing again probably a property a week in little batches, and everything in that process. So we've got a reasonably good sized team now that covers a lot of those areas, but we didn't have that, and it was everything from renovations on the properties, cleaning on it, inspections, moving stuff in, finding them, buying them, contracting them, all the legal work, the finances, the processes. And it wasn't like we had nothing else to do. Like, we had existing jobs, existing commitments on the side, and all of a sudden it became, it went fast, didn't it? Sort of zero to was quick. So we're doing some really good work with Joe on sort of documenting that kind of startup journey, because I think, I had a call this morning with a lovely guy from my personal network that I've not spoken to before, and we were sort of saying it gets easily misunderstood in terms of where we are now and where certain businesses are now, and you get loads of people come at you with enthusiasm and excitement around wanting to recreate that or help with that, and it's sometimes useful to see what goes with it, what comes with it, because Gavin and I are probably pretty good at making this thing look fun, interesting, exciting, but there's a lot of work going on here, We're not just property investors. We're running a proper business here, and that involves everything that's on a more complicated level that if you're just a landlord would be alien to you, was alien to us until we kind of learned the operating rhythm of it. So it's going to be fun to catch more of that story and try and make it tangible for people.
I think we're very open to the fact that we're growing and there's new areas and there's expansion, all those things. But you have to be comfortable, very uncomfortable with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of challenges, particularly in when you've got residents potentially who've got multiple complex needs, and you've got to try and support those. Those can be pretty hairy at times, and you have to have the people in place to be able to sort of know what to do. And that's what we've got. We've got a team of really good people who have a lot of expertise, a lot of training, a lot of skills. And if you're going to go and try and do that without the right skill set and without the right knowledge and without the right understanding, then you're not only sort of going to sort of fall flat on your face, but you're going to put those people at risk.
Yeah, you're going to hurt.
Yeah, that can't happen. So yeah, that's why whenever anybody asks about, how do you get into this, we say with a partner who can do that part.
Yeah.
So I suppose that brings us on to one of the topics that Joe's put in to discuss, which is the sort of future of social housing. And I know we might be covering off what George Clark's already sort of done in his sort of council housing, the future of council housing. But I think it's interesting to talk about when you talk about social housing, or you talk about what often gets termed as social housing, what people think of, what are the stereotypes. And it is an area where people have views on it, and not necessarily always positive views. And we get a bit of this when we put certain ads out, or we put posts onto Facebook, and people engage with it and say, well, people should get off their bums and get jobs. But it's very much not about that. And I think given like what Dean was talking about earlier with the housing market and also the economy, there's so many challenges nowadays, and particularly this year is going to be a really tough year. We all know that, and we've sort of seen it already. But economically, it's going to be really tough. And where people might have a sort of a negative view of people that need to get support, that's not our view. But it can affect everybody, and there's huge studies out there, and lots of them, that suggest we're only 1 or 2 paychecks away from homelessness ourselves, and from having difficulties or being in need of support. So I think we just need to be aware of that when we're thinking about social housing. And the thing for me is the range of people, backgrounds, education, all those sorts of things that we see within social housing doesn't reflect what sometimes those negative stereotypes are. And so I think we need to change that from a stereotypical point of view. We need to stop thinking like that, and we need to work on it just being another way of a different type, a different choice almost of housing.
Yeah, that's a hard change. That's not fast. That takes a long time, and I don't know how that stereotype will change. I know Rachel was on the phone earlier to a few agents talking about a couple of properties, and I said, how are you getting on? She said, the moment I mentioned homelessness or homeless families, they don't want to know. And I thought, well, we know. We had the survey done at the start of last year, where over 50% of the families that we were accommodating on a temporary accommodation basis were actually in full-time work. So to say that they're homeless families, okay, by definition, arguably they are, but they're not street homeless. They're not any different to you or I walking in the street, really, in terms of their housing situation is a bit disrupted, but their normal life function is perfectly under control. So sort of had a little chat around, well, maybe we just need to rephrase that. Maybe we don't need to say we're working with homeless families. Maybe we just need to work with families that work in and have, challenges around their accommodation at the moment. But that one word, just that word alone, is so emotive.
Yeah, the labelling is a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I think now, though, if you took the last 9 months with COVID, how many people have needed support? Because that's what we sort of think of as ours. Effectively, we're providing, homes that help people, as Amelia sort of coined it earlier this week. And I suppose that principle is everybody needs support at some time, whether that's whether that's people who might be incredibly well off but were shielding and, you know, need people to take things to them, whether it's people that, you know, had secure jobs. And, you know, I've got a friend, I know people who are pilots, and, you know, at the time they were thinking, great job, you know, secure, really secure, doing really well. And then all of a sudden the airline industry just disappears. And there's loads of people in those situations where things are turned upside down overnight. So maybe a lot of people's perception on support will change. Businesses and the support we've got through businesses, furlough and what that's meant for people. People who would previously probably have had a poor view of sort of any sort of government state intervention were then put on furlough and their jobs were saved. That might change their perspective. So yeah. I think we just need to, I think everybody's probably going to rethink that concept of support and what that means.
I would challenge the shortage bit, as in there's maybe a shortage in terms of increasing numbers of people that maybe aren't in accommodation, but there is arguably a lot of accommodation out there that's just not being purposed or not being directed correctly. So, I mean, we're working with one of the biggest local authorities in the West Midlands at the moment around a scheme there where they estimate that they've got up to 10,000 empty properties within their control, and they kind of work through maybe 300 to 400 of those a year and get some back into circulation. But on a strictly, you know, supply and demand basis, that's 10,000 properties. 10,000 properties, nobody in them, empty. Speaking to a chap this morning who is looking to a similar project around wanting to help local authorities on the Isle of Wight. And the same thing, loads of homes there that are empty as holiday homes, second homes, owned by wealthy people in the southeast, kept there, triple my council tax. I'm a banker, doesn't make any difference to me. And yet they've got an increasing homelessness problem on the Isle of Wight and loads of empty homes that they can't use. And that just seems silly, silly, wasteful. And, you know, how do we find a way of being a bit more creative, you know, getting a collective approach on it and trying to find those win-wins to open that up a little bit. It's hard. It's really hard. It's not a new problem, and we're not going to come at it with the solution because people have been trying to do this for years, decades even. You would think as that national sentiment starts to grow, as those pressures increase, eventually something's got to give. And if you had a sort of a stack of cards at the moment and you could flick out the one at the bottom, which was sort out empty properties, you know, you deal with a huge piece of that.
Nobody wants it, do they? You know, I think a lot of the time, and I'm probably simplifying the issue, but the person that owns it is they've either got into a difficult situation, they've got other challenges going on in life. You know, it might have been that it's been they've inherited it and they don't want to be a landlord, they don't know what to do with it, and it might be that it's in such a poor state that people feel like they're going to have to spend loads of money. It might be that people just choose to, you know, stick with it. Local residents don't want empty properties. Of course, you don't want an eyesore next to you if it is in disrepair, and you don't want an empty property if not, because, you know, we want communities and we want neighbours there. So, yeah, we're really keen to do something in that, and we try, and that's always our focus. Is, you know, if we're going to buy somewhere, we'd rather buy somewhere that needs work or is empty, because of the fact that effectively we can add value by bringing it back into use, and then also add value in terms of providing it for a social use. So
yeah, and you don't want to be adding to you don't want to be moving people out to take one out. That's not working. It's got to be an increase in supply. So enormous shortage, because that's probably what happens. You get the transitionary nature of the market, not even thinking about an aging population, a higher level of people that are buying as first-time buyers later in life, so they're kind of living at home longer. Household separations, which is happening more now because of COVID and the likes, issues such as domestic violence, where households are starting to separate and be a bit more independent. Even some of the charities we work with that would have been in HMO type housing, going, just because of COVID alone at the moment, we need to find alternative options where we can't have 5 people sharing a house because the risks are too great. Well, that's fine. You want to if you've got 500 people and they're in 100 houses, all of a sudden you want 200 houses to house those 500. Good luck with that. Like, that is not just there on Rightmove ready to click and reserve. So it's a real challenge, and it's difficult in this country because all of our housing stock is legacy housing stock. It is all 1900s, 1930s terrace properties. They're built to a certain way, a certain configuration, and you know, no more kind of land to rebuild these villages of the future, which is what we were going to also mention as well in terms of what our plans are. But you've totally redesign housing, how you live in it and how you best use your space and capacity. Go to Singapore, skyscrapers social housing blocks in massive skyscrapers. And, no land, small footprint. What's the solution? We've got to house a lot of people in a small area. You've got to go up.
But interestingly, when you think of, social housing or council, the old blocks, they're seen as a negative. So I don't know if it's a mindset piece, or if it's just the design wasn't right, or those sorts of things. I think on the empty homes piece, just to sort of close that off, that a lot of the challenges that the sort of entities that are responsible for them are the local authorities, and as Dean mentioned, we've talking to one, but they're under massive pressure in terms of resource, and those budgets are going to go even harder in terms of what they're trying to do, because of course the impacts of COVID and in dealing with the emergency. So a lot of the challenges, that ability to be able to engage with you're talking to landlords, and sometimes they might be difficult to get hold of. So it's a lot of work to even start those conversations and build those relationships. And that's where we're looking to sort of provide some support, is can we talk almost on that same level as effectively property people and landlords, and almost take a slightly softer approach. So if there's anybody out there that knows somebody who has an empty property, works in local authority, needs any support, we're more than willing to support on that basis and have those conversations and see if there's any other alternative uses that we can make of the property, which ultimately are going to support the objectives of the local authorities and the sort of social need that sits out there.
Yep. So that's our 2 pence worth on that.
Yeah. So the future of social housing in terms of new social housing, this is something we're super excited about, because we're getting involved in the development. We're literally, I know we keep on speaking about the youth centre, but we've signed the paperwork now, so we've virtually exchanged on the youth centre, which is amazing, and that's going to be our first development, and that's really exciting, because when we talk about that, we mentioned at the start about the additionality. We're going to be bringing new housing in, and that's something that we're really passionate about, because we're adding to the overall supply, not just taking existing stock. And so that's going to be our sort of first venture into development of social housing. And then we've got this longer term vision of almost like I think it's not the best so far, but we're thinking of it like the Cornerstone Village, but almost like these small developments of social housing, where we're really focusing on the quality. We're really focusing on that open space and the green space and the community feel, and almost using that as like a unique selling point. So one of the things that we've sort of loosely discussed with Joe just this week is thinking about almost creating that vision board, something which we can start to gravitate around and come up with ideas and work out how it can make happen. We've got no idea in the real terms how to make that something that's a reality today, because of the sort of the economics of it. But if you're focusing on the what you want to happen, you're 10 times more likely to actually get there. So we'll do that piece, we'll gravitate to it, and then we'll work out the steps it takes to get towards that actual real high quality, I suppose really suitable social housing, so the sort of social housing of the future. And we'd sort of mentioned Bourneville, didn't we, in terms of the sort of the Cadbury family and their vision of social housing, and said, if we could go back to that real investment in housing. And now I don't imagine, I know there's the Bourneville Village Trust, but I imagine if you was to try to buy one of those houses, it would be probably a little bit more expensive than your standard social house. And but why not? Why can't we do that for the future? Why can't we make that aspirational, like it is over in Bourneville, and like when the Cadbury thought about and made happen? So that's some of our thoughts. So watch this space in terms of some of those designs coming out.
That's going to be interesting because of the rate of change nowadays. Like, if Elon Musk gets his way, we'll be on Mars in 5 years. So what does a house of the future, how far is the future? Like, you build a house now and then in 10 years time, it's out of date. It's going to be a weird exercise to go through, trying to think about what that's going to be like.
I can't have a conversation anywhere without Dean mentioning Elon Musk.
Love the guy.
I got home the other day and Sarah was being told by Gav that, oh, did you know Elon Musk is the richest man in the world? And literally, it must have been about 10 o'clock at night. I was in bed the other day, and my son Gav comes through and goes, Dad, did you know Elon Musk is the richest man in the world? I was like, go to bed. What are you doing? So yeah, Elon Musk is everywhere.
Cool. What do we want to talk about now? Have we got any questions, Joe, before we move on to a bit of a shout out again? Has Joe gone to sleep?
Yeah, he's gone. You guys are boring.
We'll give you a moment to shine. I'm just here like, oh yeah, talking about the gore-pied on the screen. No questions. Nice amount of viewers on there. We'll see if anything comes through. We just want to reiterate the property call out piece, so if we can, guys.
Yes.
We need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done a few pieces on social media, and Maria does an excellent job of really pushing out there and sort of getting the message out in terms of what our needs are. We talk a lot about social housing. We talk a lot about the people we're helping. We only do that with properties. So, the foundation of everything we do is the fact that we provide housing and accommodation. And yes, it's high quality. Yes, there's all the support we wrap around it. But if we don't have the houses to provide to the partners, then we obviously can't make that happen. And that only comes through people who are willing to reach out, take the extra little bit of effort, even if you don't have a property that you can sort of put our way or contact us about. If you know of somebody that does, if you know of an empty property, somebody selling the house, somebody looking to rent the house, somebody who's got a social aspiration to make a difference and wants to do it, please reach out to us. We're looking across Coventry, all the way across Coventry, 3 and 4 bed properties. Same in Nuneaton, all areas of Nuneaton and Bedworth. So if you've got any properties over there, I think we've just had a request for rugby as well, if there's anybody out that way, Birmingham. So really, if you've got anything across the West Midlands, I'd suggest reach out to us, because whilst it might not be usable now, we might know of somebody else that's looking for a property. So please, anywhere across the West Midlands, if you know of, have any interest in, or are yourself able to provide a property, please just let us know. All of the normal contact channels, you can contact us through our website, which is www.cornerstonepartnership.co.uk. You can, obviously, if you're watching on Facebook, you can contact us through there, through Instagram, through Twitter, through LinkedIn. Is there anywhere else, Joe?
I mean, YouTube, I suppose. I can give us a subscribe while they're there and ask a question.
Yeah. Always pushing the subscribers. I like it.
Sounds like you've recently been on the radio, Gav.
It's very well trained, isn't it? Very well trained.
Media players almost. Kamara.
Yeah. There you go. I need to shave. Is he the one with the little moustache?
Yeah, little moustache. Yeah. What was that, Jeff?
Red card, Jeff.
I don't know what you're talking about, but
right.
It must be funny.
It will be funny. I'm sure you can get a screen grab of Gav, Joe, and a screen grab of Chris Kamara, and then you go.
I think he's a cool guy. He must be.
You're
right. Oh dear.
Cool. All right. Fine. Good start. Interestingly, another little shout out, I suppose. If anybody does watch this, we hope people watch it. We get told they do, so we hope that they do. If you are watching it, some thoughts and ideas around what you might want to see us talk about, or who you might want to see us talk to. Made a bit of a commitment this year to possibly start involving people on the catch up, because you're probably bored of us by now. So we spent a year kind of getting this thing set up, getting into a rhythm, getting into a groove. I think we're finding a real niche that we can start to focus on, and we're going to start inviting guests on. So we're going to run them 2 weekly. Looking to have really awesome people, ideally in the social housing / property tenant looking after side, that sphere would be great. So I don't know, again, same way you guys get in contact with us normally, like Gav said, names, introductions. If you want to come on yourself, give us a shout, maybe get in touch with Joe. Can do a bit of Q&A back and forth, and maybe we can get some really cool people on to share some of their stories as well. Would be really nice this year.
Yeah. So we've got some people already in mind, haven't we, which would share amazing stories. So yeah, we know there's people that regularly watch these things once they have been live as well, that might want to get themselves out there or share their stories. Like I said, we're just interested in people now. We want to really connect with the people, because we can't do it normally. Let's do it this way for as long as we have to. So yeah, get in touch. And I found a picture of Chris Kamara. Shall we say?
Yes, let's do it.
Chris Mullally. So what you have to do is turn around like that and go, red card, Jeff.
Which way? This way. Red card, Jeff.
Bosh.
There it is. Where's your tie, Gav?
I need a black tie, and I need one of those microphone things. I think we should have one of those.
You've totally got to dress up like that, and then we'll scribble on a little moustache for next time.
If
anybody asks for that in the comments, so this is a test. If anybody watches the end of the video and hashtag Mullally Kamara, he'll do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh dear. I see. Actually, there is a comment, and it's from I can't pronounce the surname, Claire Lemasteria.
Oh yeah, Claire.
Yeah.
And it says, "Hi Dean Star, it's a great job you're doing up there. Come down to the southwest."
For a holiday, Claire, or to do more of it?
Oh dear. Is that one of your Cornish friends?
I actually went to Everest Base Camp with Claire. How cool is that? So she's she lives in Plymouth, and we met in Nepal, and we've been to almost the highest point in the world. Not quite, but very close. So yeah, thanks for that.
You've not mentioned that, Dean.
Have I not? I'm sure we can do an episode on that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, great. Thank you for saying hello, Claire. If anybody else wants to, if anybody's got any questions or anything they want to put into the comments, please feel free to put it through. It always makes it a little bit more interactive if we see stuff coming through live, and it gives us the chance to be put on the spot as well, which is always a little bit more fun. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else, Joe, from you that you want to talk about.
No, that was all really. Like I say, was as ever, there's loads going on. We've got big plans obviously for the year, and hopefully we can start doing stuff a bit more as we did pre-March last year. We don't know how long it will go on for, but that's just how we are in it. We adapted really well. We do stuff differently, and yeah, there's still loads to achieve and loads going on. So
be good to get some people on, because we can focus in on some of those things then. So we always talk about loads of stuff and you try to fit it in an hour, but actually we can focus some of the sessions on, some of the partners we work with, some of our customers, and we can really get into what's helping them and maybe the nuts and bolts of what we do a little bit, if that's what people want to see. Or if they just want to see Kamara memes, we can do those. It doesn't matter.
Oh, great stuff. Well, yeah, thank you to everybody that's taken the time to watch, and I hope you found it interesting and informative in terms of some of the things we've been talking about. And I hope everybody stays safe and keeps well. And please join us next time, and find us some properties. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.